In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome in, everybody. Simone Eli, Gerhard Mathangani, joining you on this Tuesday as we are continuing to recap week one of the college football season G. And as we know, it was earlier last week on Friday the Auburn Tigers got it done on the road in Waco.
Yep, Friday night. Usually reserved for high school football. So
Yes,
if you were at a high school football game, you might have missed that one. But, yeah, Auburn did come out with a bang. And I think it was really good for them this year because, unlike last year's season started with 5 straight home games.
Yep.
This year started on the road. Really important test for this football team. And I think that if you're Auburn, this was really big for the momentum standpoint.
Yeah.
Obviously, one game was not going to kill a season, but I think for Auburn, it was really, really important.
Yeah, it was huge. No question about that. Now the Tigers will roll into week 2 where they will be at home against Ball State. So a little bit of a, I guess when it comes to not P4 competition, you get some time to tune things up. We have a stacked show coming at you. Looking forward to today's show. Here's a look at some of the things we're going to chat about. Of course, one of those being Jackson Arnold, G.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold last year, if you remember in the Alabama game, rushed for more than 100 yards in that game. They were really confident in his legs this year that he would be able to run the football effectively in Hugh Freeze's offense. He showed that there in game one.
Yep.
Now can he complement that with the passing game overall? Makes Auburn a really dangerous offense.
Yeah, and as we know, we're going to talk about Hugh Freeze and what he had to say about kind of moving forward when it comes to what the offensive play calling, maybe what the scheme is going to look like. Some week one overreactions. I can't wait to talk about this because honestly, I think I have some good ones. So I never really participate in one of these. I mean, not in this sort of platform. Of course, I'll say all types of stuff in the sports office, but actually doing it out in public forum, that's good too. So looking forward to that. We're going to chat with our guy Ian Kress as Michigan got a week 1 win, and they will roll on to play Oklahoma this week. We'll chat about that game. And, of course, TCU, man. We thought for a minute that North Carolina was going to win national championship. That was about 5 minutes, and then that ended really quickly. So, but before we really dive in, guys, and get into more on the show, in just a few minutes, in just a second here, we're going to chat with good friend of the show, Cole Kublik, of course, with the SEC Network. We're going to chat with him in just a moment. Patrick gives us the just a second on that. So looking forward to hearing from Cole Kublik, who, of course, is extremely well-versed, not only in the SEC, but especially when it comes to Auburn football and everything that comes with that. We're also going to talk to Ian Kress, like I mentioned, out of Lansing.
That's right.
Plenty more to come in the show. But as we gear up for week 2, Gerhard, it's always that opportunity to get better from week 1 and try to make adjustments going on into the season.
Yeah, you talked about the overreactions. We will have those later on.
Yeah.
Our overreactions and then what we're hearing, region-wide and nationwide. But I don't think that you can make any kind of grand predictions, but you do have a lot of actual measurable things that you saw there in week 1 that you could transfer into week 2. My favorites are the teams like we talked about with Michigan and Oklahoma. They played a quote-unquote lesser opponent in week 1. How do they bounce back and react now in a big game in week 2?
Yep, no question about that. We're going to soon find out. Patrick, how are we looking on? We got Cole Kublik. All right, guys, let's welcome in a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, Mr. Cole Kublik, joining us there. Cole, obviously, you are well-versed on the SEC. We appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy flying around from Charlotte and everywhere else and covering the SEC every single week. But how you doing, sir? How's week 1 treating you?
Week 1 hit hard. I'll just say that. I'm exhausted already. So I feel behind. I feel tired. I need sleep. And I need more hours in my day. Other than that, we're great.
You know what? This happens when you have like 3 kids. And so, I mean, you're pretty much raising like a basketball team over there right now while also trying to cover the SEC in a big way as well. Cole, you were on the road to cover Ole Miss. Is that you were covering the Rebels this past week?
Yep.
What was that like?
Yeah. I tell you, I feel better about Ole Miss being there. Talking to Pete Golding about some of the replacements on defense. I think they have a couple of D linemen they have confidence in. Obviously, Prince Uman Mielen transfers in. He's going to help. But I think Sage Ryan in the secondary and a couple of other guys that they brought into that side of the football are going to give them closer to what they had a year ago than a lot of us thought. We thought a couple of draft picks gone over there. Trey Amos gone, Walter Nolan, Prince Uman Mielen gone. But I think between Antonio Kite, who's been at Auburn and Alabama, now Ole Miss, and Sage Ryan, they're going to be a little different in the secondary. It's going to give them some options. And I'm excited about Austin Simmons, an incredible kid, an incredible story. I think last year I thought Demetrius Knight, linebacker for South Carolina, was the most interesting man in the SEC. I'll give that to Austin Simmons this year. Homeschooled, 19, already graduated college. played baseball at a different school than he played football at in high school. 6 brothers. I mean, he's wild. Really cool kid, though, and has a chance to have that Ole Miss offense being maybe more powerful than it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I want to dive into talking about your alma mater, of course. If you look behind you, Cole, you starred there on the Plains for a good while, and I know you've covered every single team in the SEC, but Auburn has a special place in your heart. I think that we've done several shows together and discussed kind of this Hugh Freeze era and what it looks like as he goes into year 3. What did you take away from the win in Waco, and where do you think this team is in terms of trajectory under Jackson Arnold there at quarterback?
I think the first thing, Simone, and you cover news locally in this state, so you know what it's like when the narrative becomes negative.
Yep.
At either school or any school, really. And the narrative had gotten there. It was low-hanging fruit. People were taking anything they could find. Jackson Arnold getting yelled at on one rep across the court, entire fall camp, and all of a sudden everything's melting.
Yes.
Coaches playing golf. They don't know who's calling plays, 3 different people. Normal people know that that's never how it's going to really work. But it had all gotten to that point where they just needed a win to shut some of that up and be able to focus on playing football. And I think that they're probably there now. I think a lot of that stuff immediately goes away because that's a nice win on the road. That's a Baylor football team that has a chance to be pretty good. So, and then you take 2. I love the fact that Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold didn't get overzealous. They didn't get greedy. They took what the defense gave them the majority of that game and stayed with the plan. And the plan needed to be run the football. Like that needed to be the plan first. And they stuck with that plan. And by doing so, you allowed yourself to get a nice win on the road. It didn't have to be Jackson Arnold pitching the ball all over the place, 20, 25 times. You didn't have to really use those talented receivers to the effect that we thought they were going to. And now I think you can take the little things that were successful and you build on those. The main thing that I saw that I haven't seen in an Auburn uniform in probably 8, 10, 12 years was the way that some of those offensive linemen were playing football. Jeremiah Wright did things that I haven't seen an Auburn offensive lineman do in a decade plus. And you throw Connor Lew into the mix there. And then you get Xavier Miller, who has to fill in for Jeremiah Wright for a series or the end of a series. And he does a great job. So the depth already paying off on the offensive line for Auburn. But that group being as physical as they were really showed me a lot about what this team has a chance to be this fall.
Absolutely. We saw at SEC Media Days, Cole, that there were so many quarterbacks that came through the ranks, which let you know that so many of these head coaches really believed in their guys coming in. After week 1, you mentioned Austin Simmons, and I was really impressed by him too. After week 1, who are the guys that really stood out to you, maybe outside of the stat line, because you can't really compare Garrett Nussmeier's game 1 to Jackson's game 1. Who stood out to you there in week 1 as far as the SEC quarterbacks go, knowing how strong and how deep this league is?
I'm going to go with Lenore Sellers, number 1, and it's a little bit Sellers, it's a little bit Nick Harbor at the same time, and they'll work together all year because that's quarterback receiver. I don't mean this to be mean, but guys, Nick Harbor hasn't been able to catch the football. Yeah. He's a wide receiver, and his biggest issue has been catching the football. He is a world-class hurdler with better speed than anybody in the country, and that's not even debatable. He's also 6'5". So he can go up over anybody and catch the foot. If he has even C+, B- hands, watch out for Nick Harbor. Yeah. And Lenore Sellers can take over a game. The offensive line didn't have a great day. I thought Mike Shula had a great plan for him with misdirection, quick throws, quarterback runs designed in, read plays, option plays. But Lenore Sellers just showed me, coming off the Clemson game, the bowl game last year, he can still be that guy that can just will a team to a win at times. But you got Dylan Stewart, who can take over on defense. Now it looks like maybe Nick Harbor. He's got some help around him. That team's going to be dangerous. And then I'll go to John Mateer at Oklahoma. I understand the level of opponent. It was not great.
Sure.
But this is his offense with his offensive coordinator coming from Washington State. And the way he operated that offense with a new cast of characters around him, it looked like he had been doing it for 5 years. It looked comfortable. It looked confident. I mean, the fade on the 4th play of the game that he throws up the sideline with a defender in his face, that might end up being the best throw of the year if you can go find that and watch it. It was unbelievable. So they didn't run the ball the way they wanted to and the way they need to, but that defense is legit. I think they have the best D-line in the SEC. So John Mateer, who if they give Oklahoma an extra gear on offense, watch out for Oklahoma. I had him in the SEC championship game. So I'm just feeling pretty good maybe about my pick there. But
there you go. Okay. Listen, our producer Patrick had LSU on the championship game, and I didn't really know what that would look like. And LSU looks pretty strong there. Cole, I do want to bring up Alabama and what's going on there in Tuscaloosa. What is going on there in Tuscaloosa? Can you tell us?
I think there's a lot going on right now, and that film was bad. It was ugly. There's no two ways around it. There are a couple of individuals that you can point out. Jeremy Bernard right there would be one of them. I think Parker Brailsford at center would be another that you would say. I think Ty Simpson actually played pretty good football. He had pressure in his face. He had defenders running free at him. He didn't have a run game after the first series really to lean on and kind of build upon. He was put in a bad spot with the weather, trying to play comeback. I didn't really look at Ty Simpson and say he can't get this done. This is on him. This is his fault. But this is the only way I know how to describe it. For a decade plus, Alabama has won football games by being the enforcer. Yeah. Now, there have been different times when Nick Saban has added speed or athleticism or different type guys, quarterbacks, what have you. But there has always been an aspect of that team that can punch you in the face, and there's physically nothing you can do about it. Yeah. And that's why this is so important to me, is that when that defensive tackle strikes and sheds, or that linebacker plays downhill on an offensive lineman, or the safety comes down on a running back who's trying to block him, physically, you're outmanned. There's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. That's why we have the spread offense. That's why we have hurry up, no huddle. That's why we have the option. That's why we have the air raid. Because in games like that, you have to have a counter to not being able to deal with the physicality. That was gone. Yeah. This is the first time in over 10 years I have seen Alabama be the absorber of that type of football for pretty much 4 full quarters. Yeah. And that's foreign to me in that uniform. So if they don't have that, and I'm still going to say if and maybe. I'm not throwing in the towel on Kalen DeBoer or Ryan Williams or Bama in general. But if that's a reality, I need to know what the other aspects are that you're going to have to go win football games with. Because I don't know if you're just good enough at every other position to say, Ty Simpson, go throw it 40 times and we win. Or offensive line, we're going to lean on you and just run the ball for 300 yards every game. Defensive line, blow up all these plays, therefore we don't have to score 10 points and we'll win. I don't know if the rest of the players are that good to just go do that. They have been in the past at times, but I don't know this year if they have that.
Cole, I don't want to dissect Kalen DeBoer's press conferences too much, but I already have. And so I want to ask you your thoughts on something that stood out to me. And that was, it seemed as though he was unhappy with parts of his staff. He didn't name names. Kalen DeBoer is very monotone. Win, lose, or draw, the guy is always kind of the same guy, much to the unhappiness at times of Alabama fans, but that's just his demeanor. It's different than Nick Saban. Nick Saban was going to make sure you knew how he felt, and if you didn't ask him the right questions for him to express it, he was going to express it anyway and find a way to do it. Right. Kalen DeBoer is way cooler, calm, collected guy. Mm-hmm. But he seems to have kind of taken a tick up when he started to say it's not all on the players. That there's more here. That this is not last year. I'm not asking you to name names necessarily, but did it seem to you like there was an issue between him and the execution by the staff and what they were doing schematically throughout the game process there in Florida State?
Yeah, and Simone, you understand part of this dynamic. I mean, you're married to a coach, so there comes a point in time when you take up for your coaches. There comes up a point in time when you take up for your kids. Yeah. And one thing, there's a lot of college football right now that we have to retrain our brains on. Mm-hmm. Like a 9-win football team is actually pretty good. Yeah. We have Bama fans calling into Greg and I show every day saying, look at Georgia last year. Bama, they need to fire their coach. It's like there was a 1-win differential. 10-9.
That's such a good point.
It wasn't too light years apart. There's a lot that we have to retrain our brains on. And when you say that, it immediately made me think about where we are in this portal era right now. Mm-hmm. And that he can go in a closed-door meeting with his coaches and say, hey, man, listen, we need to fix this and this, but I got it. I know why it went that way. You're going to hear me in front of a microphone, take a different approach, and it's because I got to keep that kid happy. Yeah. And we can't have that kid walking out the door. Good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same reason that Hugh Freeze told the TV crew last year, I think it was Alabama A&M game, whatever game was, he's like, we're going to throw deep to Cam Coleman 8 times. I got to keep him happy. Yeah. Right. It's just where we are, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. But I do think that there's some reality to that. He's been with this staff long enough where I don't think he has to send any messages subliminally through the media. Sure. And I think when he went back and looked at it, there's part of him that probably said, why in the hell are we calling this? Yeah. There's no way that he didn't go watch that film and say, why didn't we stick with the run game a little bit longer? Because it was going. Sure. I mean, they were moving that defensive line. So I'm sure there's parts of it that, and whoever the staff members are that he's maybe directing that at, I bet they're just as frustrated, saying, why did I get away from that? Or why did I not do this a little bit more? But I'll say this on the side of the players. Well, it's not really on their side, but in reference to, there's not a coach in America in Pee Wee ball, NAIA, Division III, SEC, Big Ten, NFL, Indoor Football League, Arena 2 that's not coaching for great effort.
Yep.
And there's not a single one of them that is accepting of minimal effort. And there were times that you got that from those players on the field Saturday. I can't direct that at the coaches. I can't.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that Kane Womack is saying, do not go take on this blocker head on and put the crown of your helmet under his chin and buckle his helmet back like I've seen done at this place for the last decade.
Yep.
He's not telling his guys to duck blocks. It's just not a real – nobody's telling Bray Hubbard to jog to a ball carrier.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. So, yeah, schematically, could they have done a few things different? Of course. But when the effort's what it was, I have a hard time pointing at the coaches and saying that that's on them. That part of it, at least.
Amen to that. Cole.
Yeah, that is spot on.
Yeah.
I have a question specific to Tennessee. This is a team last year that made the college football playoff. Then they retooled their offense. No Dylan Sampson, no Nico Iamaleava. You mentioned the coaching, and I think that Josh Heupel did a phenomenal job this offseason with his roster, Nico being one, Boo Carter being another. They come out in week 1, and they get a big win. What do you make of Tennessee this year, and do you think that they can have a similar result to last year where they were one of the final 12 teams left in college football?
I got to be really careful here because I made a deal with myself publicly on my podcast and my radio so that I'm not going to speak in definitives for at least the first 3 weeks of the season because we all have no idea what we're going to get.
Cole, it's Overreaction Monday.
It's Overreaction
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
There were massive question marks with Tennessee that I had, and they have gone a long way towards answering those questions. I was worried about the offensive line. You go get Wendell Moe from Arizona, this big sumo wrestler who was pushing people around the other day. You go get Sam Pendleton from Notre Dame, who was a starter at Notre Dame at times last year. He comes in there blowing people up. You're running the football again, which he's always done. And when you go back and look at it, this is where maybe we were wrong on Josh Heupel. What quarterback has ever failed under him? None. There hasn't been. Now, some have been better than others, but there's never been miserable quarterback play, and they've always run the ball. It doesn't matter if it's Dylan Sampson or any other running back they always run the ball. So we probably should have thought about that a little bit more than wondering, is Joey Aguilar going to be better than Nico, or can he be Hendon Hooker, this, that, whatever. The offensive line's there, and this is what I really love. We had them early in the season last year, and Josh laid out for us their offseason plan, and it was essentially to become more physical, to win games a different way, to not get owned at the line of scrimmage, and they went and got bigger bodies. They went and got more big bodies, more tight ends, more fullback type players, and you saw it show up. Now, Tennessee fans got mad at it last year because why are we running the ball? We need to score points. But you're holding on to a win on the road at Oklahoma, and that's why you did it, because you could run the football and you were physical. You saw Ethan Davis and some of those tight ends still doing it again this year. That tells me that your plan from last offseason carried over through this offseason and is still there. You still kept that on the forefront of what you want to be as a program. Their defensive line picked up right off where they left off. Now, they're not as deep on that side of the ball, but this gigantic middle of the pack in the SEC that we have, which, by the way, with Texas and Bama may have gotten bigger, of teams that are all very similar to each other. Tennessee, I would have much closer to the top of that middle of the pack than maybe I did going into the season after what I saw.
Cole, I know this is SEC, but as we wrap things up, just want your initial reaction to Bill Belichick, North Carolina, and what it was that we saw in the first 5 minutes and in the final 55 minutes of yesterday's game.
Yeah, I was flying home last night, and we got delayed. I got to watch some of it, but not all of it, trying to keep up with it just a little bit.
You didn't miss much.
I can't say I'm overly surprised.
Really,
I mean, the roster doesn't have a lot of familiar names that have been successful in college football, and the people who usually have success early now, either as a new coach or at a new destination, they're going and getting players that have had success other places. Because you can do that now. You don't have to get a freshman or wait for your first recruiting class. You can go get guys that have played.
Oh, yeah.
And there wasn't a ton of those guys on that roster. And then just the understanding of how to coach. You can't coach college guys the way you can coach NFL guys. It's not real. They don't have the understanding of it being a career just yet. So, did I think it was going to be that bad? No, probably not. But I knew Josh Hoover was coming back at TCU, and I knew Sonny Dykes' system is still his system. And not surprised they moved the ball that way, but the way that North Carolina kind of fell off the face of the earth after the first couple drives, that might be a little surprising.
Lord, did they. Cole, of course, do great things there with SEC Network. Where are you headed this weekend?
I will be in Tuscaloosa this weekend, so it will be an interesting weekend.
We talked to Brian Vincent yesterday here on the show, and I think that it's a guy with so many Alabama ties. It seems like he's
Yeah.
excited to just make a return here while also keeping it in perspective, but also knowing it's a big opportunity for his guys.
No doubt. I think him coaching at UAB as long as he did, he knows exactly what that program is and what it's about. I'll just say this. Alabama fans should be very happy that Ahmad Hardy is in Columbia, Missouri right now.
Okay.
Fair?
Wow. Wow.
Well, listen.
That kid
he
would
was
have
awesome
caused some
last year.
problems.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
That kid would have caused some problems.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you there in Tuscaloosa. We'll see if La Monroe can make things interesting for at least a minute or so. And all eyes will certainly be on that game, no question. Can Alabama bounce back? We'll find out soon. But Cole Kublik, appreciate your time so much, sir. I know how busy you are, and we really, really appreciate you spending it here on Southeast Sports Plus with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
Cole.
stuff. Cole Kublik, SEC Network. Yeah. Alabama fans, they certainly have their eyes on that game. Cole, obviously, always does a great job, great analysis, great breakdown. I'm not sure how he can keep track of everything that's going on in the league because I can hardly keep track of what's going on with the teams in our state. So it's a lot.
Yeah, and he does a really good job. And obviously, he breaks down a lot of tape as well for
Yeah.
SEC Network. So he not only just does stuff with the games, but also post-game
yeah.
analysis. And so he's able to break things down. And given his history as a player
Sure.
in this league, he gives a credibility that very few have.
Yeah. He didn't want to say that, Auburn's going to win a national championship yet, but you know what?
Yet
One
being
of
the
us might be
operative word.
saying that a little bit later in the show. We'll find that out. All right, guys, plenty more to come here on Southeast Sports Plus. Been a quick 20 minutes, and we'll see you in just a few. Stay with us. And welcome back in to Southeast Sports Plus. Simone Eli, Gerhard Mathagani, Patrick Walsh joining you on this Tuesday as we continue to dissect week 1 of the college football season. A little bit of overreaction here in the SEC, or maybe not overreaction. We'll find out soon enough if it's overreaction. But we are excited to chat with one of our friends outside of the Southeastern Conference. That's Ian Kress joining us from Lansing. Ian, you were with us last week, of course, as we were gearing up for week 1. And now that Michigan has their first win in the books over an inferior opponent in New Mexico, give us your first takeaways as I guess the Wolverines now prepare for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, they looked good for the most part against New Mexico. I mean, what more could you really want them? They obviously go out there and win. Their offense looked really good. The graphic says there, Justice Haynes looked really solid. That's something Michigan's always prided themselves on, is being able to run the football, and they did that pretty well. And when you have a freshman quarterback, having a strong run game will always help ease them into it. And with Bryce Underwood making his first ever start in college, 251 yards, It's the most passing yards Michigan had all last year. They didn't have a quarterback reach over 250. So the fact that they got that in the first game with a true freshman quarterback, I think speaks a lot to the talent Bryce Underwood has, but also the trust Michigan has in his ability to throw the ball. And I think we'll see how he is on the road at night against an SEC opponent. But I think for week 1, really not much more you can ask for out of a true freshman quarterback.
Absolutely. You teed that up perfectly, because I want to ask, for somebody who did not watch that game, maybe drive for drive, play for play, what did they ask him to do as a true freshman? And how much do you think they'll put in his hands, as you said, goes on the road, hostile environment there in Norman?
Yeah, I think at first, you saw a lot of screens and just dumping the ball off and letting some of the receivers go to work. But then as the game progressed, you saw him have a little zip to his passes and throw it. Not a whole lot of deep shots, but I think, for week 1, maybe they want to hide some things. They don't want to totally show off the offense against New Mexico when their week 2 opponent is Oklahoma. So they didn't take as many deep shots. There was a lot of maybe 15-yard passes he had, but you could tell he had a lot of good zip to it. Some deep shots were a little inaccurate at times, but I think that's just maybe some jitters at first. He still looked pretty good on one of his touchdown passes, and then even on one of the rushing touchdowns Michigan had, he was out there and laid a huge block into the defender. So he showed his physicality as well at the quarterback position.
I want to ask you, Ian, obviously there's a lot of storylines about Michigan football right now. Of course, Sharon Moore will be on the sidelines there in Norman at his alma mater, which is just, notable, and it's a neat thing, of course. But then you have this cloud of the situations with him being suspended for the next 2 games. And what is just the temperature of that, not only in Ann Arbor, but also just in the Big Ten? I know you also cover Michigan State very closely. And just what do people say? What do they think about this? What do you think about this?
Well, I think at first when it came out of what games he was going to be suspended for, because these next 2 games were the self-inflicted suspension that Michigan gave him. And a lot of people are, in a way, making fun of it, because it's it's pretty ironic that it comes after the Oklahoma game, when it's a big game and also a homecoming for Sharon. And they're basically just suspending him for the game against Central Michigan, which Michigan should roll to an easy victory. And then at Nebraska, which is, maybe a little bit of a challenge, but not like Oklahoma on the road. So it was kind of ironic when those were the 2 games. You would think if you're going to give someone a 2-game suspension, why not make it the first 2 games of the year? But I think that Oklahoma game and it being a homecoming probably played a factor into Michigan's choice for the games to suspend him for. But he did talk yesterday about how that's not totally his focus right now. His focus is just on the players he has in Ann Arbor. It's not the fact that he's going back to Oklahoma. They're just focused on themselves and trying to beat the Sooners ultimately.
Yeah, our producer Patrick Walsh is laughing behind the scenes right now, because I think that's the sound that he probably pulled for that we're about to play right now. I'm sure more. Let's take a listen into Coach as they gear up for the Sooners.
Yeah, it's about my players, so there's no emotional attachment to it. I'm emotionally attached to the players that are at Michigan. They're my kids. I see Gio back there. I've known him since he was 15 years old, even though he looks 30. And yeah, Gio, I'm talking about Gio. But it's one of my kids. So these guys are who I'm emotionally attached to more than anything. And it's going to be an awesome atmosphere, don't get me wrong. It's a great town, and obviously I got my degree from there, and there's a love there, but these kids are what's special to me. So that's all I'm worried about. I'm worried about our players getting our team ready to go play this game.
Well, Ian's a great reporter when he, of course, already alludes to the main soundbite that we picked for the show. Ian, your takeaway is obviously a little bit of humor there from Sharon Moore. Seems like he's in a pretty good place right now, despite kind of what happened just before kickoff of the college football season and as they gear up for this game in Norman.
Yeah, they've really not focused too much on what happened before with the whole sign stealing scandal. It's anytime it's brought up, it's something they just kind of brush to the side, which you would expect.
Sure.
They're not going to talk too much about it. But, for the most part, I think he really enjoys this team. He's talked about that throughout fall camp, the fact that, this is a group of guys that really enjoy one another. Mm-hmm. And I think, too, for him, it's probably neat the fact that he now has a quarterback that's, in a way, someone that he recruited to Michigan and someone that is always going to be connected in a way at the hip with him. I think with J.J. McCarthy, you think of him and Jim Harbaugh.
Sure.
It's sort of like he finally has his quarterback, his guy that can help Michigan maybe win another national championship, beat Ohio State again. And, when you think of this era of Michigan football, you'll think Bryce Underwood, Sharon Moore, and two of them together.
Sure.
That's awesome stuff. Okay, for the Michigan defense, that's obviously a tall task against what is another new quarterback in this league in John Mateer. And we have had a chance to really dissect Mateer's first game in the SEC. I think a lot of people come away really impressed by the way he looked and by the way that Arbuckle and the offense looked. How is this Michigan defense preparing not only for the hostile environment going on the road in Norman, but also a new quarterback and a new system?
Yeah, well, what's going to be interesting for Michigan is for the first half of that game, they're going to be without one of their top defensive players, and Jay-Sean Barham, who was ejected for targeting in the second half against New Mexico. Some call it a questionable call. Sharon Moore said he did not. He disagreed with the call because the Big Ten did upheld it, and so he's going to have to miss the first half. That'll be a big loss for the Wolverines in the first half, but I think ultimately they have guys they believe in that can go out and make plays. They still lost, obviously Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to the NFL draft, Will Johnson being another one. But for Michigan, their defense, they in a way reload. I think the first half could be a challenge without Barham, but overall, I think they believe in the guys up front that they have to go out and make plays. In their secondary, they like to.
Ian, we talk obviously a lot about the SEC on this show, but right now, two Big Ten teams sit atop the AP poll, of course, with Ohio State's win over Texas. Notable, and people kind of wondering what the Longhorns are going to look like under Arch Manning. Penn State, they're at 2, where they were, depending on which poll you were looking at. And then Oregon, who's in the Big Ten now randomly, is they're at number 6. And there's a lot of conversations about just what the change of the guard, so to speak. Are we seeing this big shift? Of course, in the last 2 years, the SEC's been left out in that championship game. The Big Ten has really been dominant in the postseason. What is the thought process, I guess, not only for yourself as a reporter, an anchor there in Lansing, but also just from the fan base perspective, in that the SEC kind of laid an egg to an ACC opponent when it comes to Alabama. Of course, LSU ended up getting it done, but Texas falls to Ohio State. I mean, is everyone like beating their chest and feeling good up there?
I mean, in a way, yeah. I think kind of a cliche thing is a lot of people are like, well, now that the SEC doesn't have the advantage of paying players while other teams can. The Big Ten is at
might
an
not be all that wrong. So
yeah, and you got a program like Michigan who can spend $10 million because of the alumni they have.
Yeah.
I don't know what the alumni base is like at certain SEC schools, but I think you see some of these big time donors at these Big Ten schools. Like Ohio State being able to get Jeremiah Smith from down in Florida, bring him up from the high school ranks, and obviously he's a very talented player, and Michigan getting Bryce Underwood. I think with Penn State, they have a loaded roster, but they also have a veteran quarterback, which I think anytime that's the case, you're going to be ranked pretty high and have a chance to win it. But yeah, I think everyone feels good at the Big Ten level, it seems like, just because, the last 2 years, they've obviously won the national championship. Sure. Ohio State seems to be very solid once again. Penn State, like I mentioned, veteran quarterback, a team that can obviously go on a run. I don't know if I totally believe it. As someone who is an AP voter, I still have Ohio State above them, but I'm not there yet to put Penn State over Ohio State.
Official AP voter of Southeast Sports Plus. Yeah, so we're going to change your super to that.
We knocked on the fact that you cover both the Wolverines and the Spartans. What do you make of Michigan State's game one? I think a lot of people kind of came into the season with some questions about Michigan State going into this year. Obviously got a win last week, but going to Boston College this week, what did you make of the Spartans game one?
Yeah, I mean, they came out, played really well in the first half. They were up 21-0, and then, the second half, they didn't score on offense. So that's maybe a little concerning with another Power 4 team. They're going to be playing this Saturday. So we'll see how it ultimately shakes up. I think they do have one of the better quarterbacks in the conference in Aiden Childs. I think, he had a little turnover issue last season, but he's cleaned that up. And I think if he takes the necessary steps as a junior would take, then I think Michigan State could be a team that I'm not going to say can beat Michigan, but they could have a chance because that game is in East Lansing. And, whenever those two meet, it's always a good chance, always a good game, I should say.
Yeah. Ian, before we let you go, I got to ask, I see your 6-day extended forecast is there behind you. And I'm just wondering what it's like to cover football when it feels like fall, because we have about at least a month and a half before we're even looking at the highs being in the 60s. And I'm just really, really jealous of that, to be honest, because it's 87 here right now, and it'll be about 90 for most of the day.
I kind of miss the warmth, but it is nice to have that fall breeze in the air. It does feel like football season. I mean, first week of high school football, had a little jacket on, and
a little jacket. Yeah. Lord, if we wore a jacket right now, we'd be melting. I love that for you. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Once the sun went down, it got a little chillier, but no, it feels good right now. It was kind of sunny out and a little hot, but it's good right now.
Yeah. Ian, great stuff. We appreciate your time joining the show, talking Michigan State as well, and we'll look forward to recapping the game with you as we move forward into week 3 of the college football season as well. Thank you for your time, sir, and looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, good stuff. Ian Kress joining us, and of course he primarily covers Michigan State, but really well versed there in Big Ten altogether.
Yeah, and I think that it's really interesting with him because he threw a little nugget out there that Michigan State can possibly
that's strong.
Beat Michigan.
All I'm going to say is I'm like 92% sure that he's a Michigan State graduate. I'm going to double check that. I don't want to just we covered Michigan State in the Elite 8 when I was covering Auburn, and we were there for Next Star, and he was covering Michigan State, and Michigan was there too, right? Yeah, they're both there. Yeah. And I'm like 98% sure. It went up 6% that he's a Michigan State graduate. But I'm gonna double check that.
He bleeds green, huh?
Yeah. So he wants to put that out there just a little bit without having to come back on it too much. But anyways, good stuff. Ian Kress. Michigan will play Oklahoma in a homecoming for Sharon Moore, of course, the head coach of the Wolverines, who's also kind of in a little bit of a weird space right now because he's going to be suspended for the next 2 games. So yeah, you never know what's going on in this college football days nowadays. But anyways, speaking of what's going on in college football, Bill Belichick decided he was going to come on down to the college football ranks, and man, he came down from from somewhere when he yesterday when
from Krypton
when they put it on him. We'll talk more about North Carolina and the Tar Heels and all the people that were there, the star celebs. That's coming up after the break. Stay with us, guys.
Yeah, look, they just outplayed us. They outcoached us. I mean, they were just better than we were tonight. That's all there was to it. They controlled both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their skilled players played well, and they did a lot more things right than we did. So, give them credit for being the better team. They certainly deserve it.
Bill Belichick opens the North Carolina debut with a shellacking.
Ooh, that was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. He's 1-0, 0-1, Lord Almighty, 0-1 as the Tar Heels head coach, and it looked like, for a second, a really quick second, but it looked like for at least 5 seconds that they could win a national championship in that first drive.
The first drive, the scripted drive, looked unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they got up 7-0.
What did they do with the script after that?
And I guess the script went to the trash can, the offense and defensive script, because they were outscored 41-0 after that.
Have you ever seen anything, as a longtime Patriots fan, my friend, have you ever seen anything quite like that?
Towards the end of Bill Belichick's career in Foxborough, it got bad. Nothing like what we saw there, but you don't really see 40-something-7 blowouts in the NFL as much. But whatever the
what was that score? 47?
It was 48-14 was the final, but it was 41-7 when everybody turned it off, and that was 41 points.
I turned it off early, and I turned it off after the first drive because I was like, hey, I gotta go home. Next thing I looked, I'm like, wow, well that didn't last very long.
The two numbers that jumped out to me: total offense, TCU, 543 yards.
Holy cow!
North Carolina, 222.
You mentioned that Belichick is a defensive guy, right?
He is a defensive guy. He is a defensive guy.
Patrick? Man, this is not what I think a lot of folks maybe expected from this debut of Bill Belichick era there in North Carolina.
Not at all. Bill Belichick's whole thing is before you learn how to win, you have to keep yourself from losing. He's all about not making mistakes, no penalties, no turnovers. They had a pick six and a scoop and score. And then gave up 500-something yards. Everything that goes against Bill Belichick's philosophy of winning football games, they went in the complete opposite direction.
The graphic did say it was the most points allowed by Belichick since 2021, and it was that AFC wildcard game.
Don't remind me.
I'm going to remind you.
That was rough.
Because
please remind
if you don't count the QB kneel at the end, Bills went 7 for 7 on touchdown drives.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, talk about a defensive disaster class. Instead of a defensive masterclass. But, Gerhard, you're a big fan of the Patriots.
I am.
I've got a little something for you.
Okay.
So you think your GOAT is Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Well, I got this for you. TCU dropping 48 points. That age gap is only one more.
Oh, my.
So Bill Belichick, doing his best.
Listen, his game is working in some way.
This was good.
It's working in one way. Game working in one way and ain't working in the other way.
That was creative. The funny thing I saw, and I don't even know
there has been a lot of memes and different videos and things.
When the score was 41-7, I don't even know if this number is true, but I heard that it's ironic because when Bill was 41, Jordan was 7. It's like I don't even know if it's true or not.
He was just doing his best to honor her. I'm pretty sure I saw her on the sidelines at one point last night.
She was there in the booth.
Isn't she like the general manager?
Michael Jordan.
Speaking of the people that were at this game, by the way, okay,
it was
the people that were at this game, I was really impressed by that, and they were loving life for 5 minutes.
Arguably the greatest football player of all time in Lawrence Taylor. Arguably the greatest basketball player of all time.
Take that word off that right now. Take off arguably off that last one.
You got Tom Brady. Okay, so
I ain't talking about Tom Brady. I'm talking about basketball.
Oh, Jordan. Yes. You're right. I think you should take it off for LT.
Yeah,
because you make an argument.
LT is an argument.
I mean, we're talking like different. I mean, totally like apples and oranges when it comes to that. I'm talking about basketball.
Goats and goats.
There's no arguably on that one, dog.
Goats on goats on goats.
If we want to start arguing about that right now.
Well, I don't know. I think Patrick's in the LeBron camp.
Of course he is, because he's like.
If
you pull that age graphic back up, that's about us to him sometimes, and so that right there is a good representation of why if he likes LeBron,
we've been over this. I'm not a LeBron guy. I've told you that I'm a MJ.
Well,
okay. So he's one of the few, one of the very few.
I thought that was that was the first question you ever asked me. Was
during our job interview? Can we let him in the sports department? We can only let him in.
That's a great first question.
Honestly, it's valid. It's valid. Who is your GOAT? Who is your GOAT?
Mine was Bill Belichick. Was being the operative word.
Yes. Well, listen. Not a great start.
Allows 48.
Not a great start, and we'll see if they can right the ship. But that is definitely something that's got to get turned around pretty quickly there for your guy.
That was rough. And shout out John Hoover because he was he was really, really good in that football game yesterday.
Yeah. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're coming back. We're going to have Overreaction Tuesday. So we're going to call that Overreaction Tuesday. What are the hottest takes for SGP when it comes to week 1 of the college football season and what things look like as we move forward? We'll have that after the break. Stay with us. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Southeast Sports Plus, Simone Gerhard Patrick joining you as it has flown by as it often does. Now, several things happened in week 1 of the college football season, as it often does, is people, as they typically do every single week, overreact.
Yeah.
You get the armchair quarterbacks. You have people saying, okay, gloom and doom is underway across the conference and for my team, for this team, for that team, and now we're going to totally lean into that because we were able to sit here and say, yeah, you're right. Hey, you're wrong. Patrick introduced this segment, and I absolutely love it. And I'm excited to kind of break down what it is that each of us think is things are going to look like moving forward in terms of the SEC or college football as well. Gerhard, I'm going to have you go first.
It's funny how you can extrapolate 60 minutes into the next 12 weeks of football, but let's do it right now.
Here we go.
LSU is winning the SEC championship.
I like that one.
Hey, Patrick said that a couple weeks ago.
Your boy Brian Kelly got over the hump. Cade Klubnik for Heisman. That looks dead on arrival. The offense played well under Garrett Nussmeier. Okay in the first half, lights out in the second half. How about Miami winning the ACC? Your boy, Mario Cristobal. He's a frustrating guy to bet on. However, when his teams come week to week and they have a statement game like this, they look really, really solid. Can they keep this up? I think not. All right, so the bonus overreaction is, how about your boy Matt Patricia looking like Vic Fangio? If you don't know who Vic Fangio is, he's the guy that just basically eradicated Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the Super Bowl, the Eagles defensive coordinator.
Saw that.
Matt Patricia, he put Sark and Arch Manning in a straitjacket.
Yep.
He's the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. He gave everybody the playbook. Yeah, those are my 3 overreactions.
You know, I got to give him Matt Patricia credit while we're on that boat because, I was not a big fan of him in the NFL the last few years that he's in the NFL.
Yeah, I get that.
His teams weren't really that good.
I know.
Listen, things obviously working, no question about that. Patrick, go ahead and pull mine up because, interestingly enough, we're going to roll with the, give me a War Eagle on that. How about Auburn? Wow. Auburn playing. I said Auburn playing in the SEC championship game. I didn't sit here and say they're going to take it all the whole dang thing. I'm just saying they're going to be there. I'm just saying they're going to be there at Auburn. We like to call that Auburn East over there in Atlanta. And I'm just saying Hugh Freeze going to run literally run Jackson Arnold all the way to Atlanta. Coach sitting here saying he's going to play, the playbook will look what needs to happen in the game. All right, let the guy run the ball. I mean, if that's what it takes to win, that's what it takes to win. All right, Lenore Sellers for Heisman. What? And here's the deal.
Yeah.
How about the validation from my guy off the
Cole
top?
just said it. Yeah.
Cole said, most impressed. And quite frankly, maybe it was only because I was looking up every now and then to see what was going on in that game. And every time I did, it just seemed like Lenore Sellers was doing something that was really, really impressive with his feet. Or, I mean, that guy can throw it.
Yeah,
he can throw it a mile.
Yeah.
And he's confident doing it.
Yep.
It might not always land in the hands of somebody, but like when it did, wow. That looked impressive. Bonus. Here's my bonus take, guys. That the SEC will not win the national championship. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to play for it. I said they're out of the national title. I'm not mean out of the title game. Obviously, there's going to be probably 4 SEC teams in the playoffs. And if there's 6, if you ask Greg Sankey, but. I do think there might be some cause for concern as to will an SEC team be holding the national championship trophy at the end of the season.
Honestly, I really think those are really good overreactions because the team that we were all banking on, Texas.
Maybe I didn't do the overreaction thing right.
Maybe that's just the most spot-on thing.
Spot-on take.
I think I didn't really take the whole. I mean, I can overreact to a lot of things. Y'all both know this, right? You're gonna meet me for at least 5 minutes, so you know that I can overreact to a lot. But that's just my thoughts at the moment. And maybe I need to be more dramatic, but I feel like some of them were dramatic. I mean, Auburn in the SEC game.
That one's a little.
That would be strong.
That would be.
Patrick, what you got?
All right, let's roll into mine. In true over dramatic fashion, Alabama will be worse in 2025.
Well, that's
than
already
2024.
happening.
I think I said it to you the
Yeah.
other day. It's just like I just don't have any confidence. I mean, the only thing is it's week 1, and now it's week 2. They get a chance to right the ship against this weekend, but we'll see how Alabama plays out. FSU, I think they are a top 25 team. We'll take a look at the AP poll a little bit later. They actually are top 15, but I don't think they are actually a top 15, if you get what I'm saying.
Same.
And I mean, it's alarming to lose.
No, I think that
by
they are.
much.
Anyway.
Number 2, John Mateer will win the Heisman. I've been high on him going to Oklahoma ever since he was over at Washington State and following his offensive coordinator. We talk a lot nowadays on learning new systems and making sure the guys are the right fit for the offensive coordinator. And why don't you just follow your own offensive coordinator to the SEC? That'll help for you.
I love it.
And my bonus is Bill Belichick will leave for the NFL again. Now, here's the thing. Last night was not good.
It's not.
But the thing was, the talent that he has is just not there.
It's not.
So.
Well, all I'm saying is that he's not leaving for the NFL. He's going to leave for the same boat that Nick Saban's on because they're both going to be saying, we done with this. We're going to wrap things up, guys. Hour 1 in the books. We'll be right back for hour 2 of Southeast Sports Plus.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus, talking Alabama. Not only the shocking loss, but possibly the loss of one of their star wide receivers. Ryan Williams graced the cover of the EA Sports college football game to start this season. However, he's day-to-day right now in concussion protocol as Alabama gets ready for their home opener this week against ULM. Of course, if you were around back in 2007, you know how that game went. Of course, Alabama's had a lot of success against ULM ever since then. We are pleased to be joined by Brett Greenberg of 247 Sports. Brett, you cover Alabama here, joining Patrick and myself. First off, let's just talk big picture with this Alabama football team. Now they've had a couple days to digest not only the loss, but where they stand now in the AP poll, south of number 20, and everything else that goes with going into their home opener. What do you make of where Alabama is right now as they look to pick up the pieces?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the fact that 21 is the lowest they've been ranked in the AP poll in 21 years or 19 years. That this is the lowest they've been ranked is impressive itself. I know that's not what Alabama fans want to hear, but it's always nice to take a step back and realize what Nick Saban did for this program. But yeah, I did not really expect, and I don't think I'm alone here, to be coming on here and talking about Alabama not only losing, but losing in the way that they did. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see it on your screen right here, 230 rushing yards allowed for Florida State, or allowed by Alabama against Florida State, which is enough to probably make most of your viewers down there that are watching you guys every day puke all over the screen. And it was not only that, it was just the way kind of, and again, you talk about the Nick Saban years, and you try not to compare it because, again, you can't compare these eras. But when Alabama walked onto the field, it was, we're going to beat you up. You know, other teams, you know, they're scared of us. We're going to beat you at the line of scrimmage. And that was just not there on either side of the ball all afternoon. And it ends up like we just saw on the screen, Florida State kind of runs all over Alabama. Tommy Castellanos puts his money where his mouth is and then some. I mean, and I saw Alabama fans pretty upset with him doing those NIL shirts, which I'm all for it. You do what you need to do to make the money. I don't think Alabama fans were too upset when Milroe and those guys were selling Lank shirts. So again, kind of a very, very unexpected result. A lot of national analysts picked Alabama to win the national championship, who have been around the facility in the offseason, and just overall, I think big picture is just shocking.
Yeah, I mean, he did kind of make those shirts, but he also did win the game. So therefore, you can talk all you want. But going back to what Gerhard and I talked about last week and this game, FSU versus Bama, it felt like both teams needed a win to like silence the doubters. Now that Bama lost, and by the margin that they did and how they lost, is there concern for Kalen DeBoer after week one?
I think the easy answer is yes, because again, these Alabama fans, Kalen DeBoer's 5-5 in his last 10. You and I and Gerhard, we talked about during SEC Media Days, and it was a big question brought up. What is it going to be like on the road? Because we saw Alabama struggle last fall. Alabama gets a prime opportunity. And like you said, there was a sense that it was kind of a must-win in a sense for both programs. Obviously, Florida State comes out on top. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is in danger of losing his job just yet. The other side of it is, yeah, you have UL Monroe come into town, and I kind of posed this question with some friends and some people on our board. What is Alabama going to show this week that's going to make you say, okay, we're ready to go? Because, like you said, it's UL Monroe, it's a lesser opponent, and Alabama should take care of business. Even if Alabama does win 60-0, there's still going to be those same question marks going into a bigger opponent at home against Wisconsin. So, again, it's a little bit unexpected having these conversations, but I don't quite think, if you get into the numbers wise, I don't think Kalen DeBoer is quite on the hot seat just yet, but we have seen how quickly things can change.
I think that buyout is like what, north of 60? Is it? I mean, like it'll be really expensive if they did, you know, obviously do what I think is maybe a little too reactionary into firing him and everything else. And I just think that just wouldn't be feasible financially right now to even do so unless you're having Nick Saban come back to the coach's football team.
Right. I think the buyout drops 20 or so million after the 2027 season.
Right.
So I know, again, Alabama fans listening to the show, that seems a bajillion miles away. Things can change. Alabama could show up and lose at UL Monroe at home this Saturday. I don't think anything's really off the table. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, it's college football, and things can change on a dime.
Absolutely. How concerning is it, in your opinion, just watching this football team, that the fact that it's kind of some of the same things that we were talking about a year ago? It's penalties, a little bit of effort, which that's a little bit new, and you heard Kalen DeBoer talk about that. And these do seem fixable, but now for the fourth time, Coach Kalen DeBoer has lost to an unranked opponent. I think Nick Saban did that 4 times in 200-plus games. How concerning is it that it's some of the same situations that are really getting them in this hot water, more so than it is an execution thing or just being, the less talented team on the field?
Yeah, I think short answer, it's very concerning because, again, you go back to last year and Kalen DeBoer talked about it again at SEC Media. It's going on the road, the transition, the familiarity, and all signs pointed at this team getting ready to rock and roll to go into Florida State, and they just absolutely laid an egg. So it's pretty concerning that it hasn't been changed. And all offseason, you heard the talk about the team locking in. And again, there's familiarity, there's familiarization with coaches can kind of let them, kind of let their full feelings out because they're not really in kind of transition mode or anything like that. So again, you heard from not only Alabama, the Kalen DeBoers and Coach Womack and the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator and Ryan Grubb, and also national media about the buy-in. So again, I wish I could give you a better answer, but again, it's just shocking. I think Josh Pate said it. He's like, he went to both scrimmages, he went to multiple practices. He picked Alabama to, I think, win the national championship, and he said that was just not something he would have picked if it was a multiple choice test of what Alabama was going to look like. So to kind of really answer your question, it is concerning, and there's only so many things you can continue to say. I believe some players talked about a players-only meeting during media days today, but it needs to show up on the field, and it needs to show up on the road.
Yeah, you mentioned Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator. He spoke with reporters. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Yep, highly disappointed in the way that we played the game the other day. I thought in the midst of adversity, we played hesitant, which is not the identity of this defense. I think we've got a group of young men that take a lot of pride in the way they play, the effort that they play with, and I thought we played too much on our heels on the road with adversity. As a coaching staff, we have to do a better job on the road of creating a sideline environment to make sure our guys are ready to go respond. That starts with me and our coaches, and making sure that our players know how to respond in the moment of adversity. But I've got great confidence in our players. I think the level of ownership that I've seen from our guys has been really strong the last 48 hours here, and I think we're ready to go put a product on the field on Saturday that our fans, this university can be very proud of, and so looking forward to doing that this week.
So Kane Womack saying all the right things, Coach Kalen DeBoer saying all the right things. I think the players are doing the exact same thing. There's another wrinkle of this, Brett, that I want to get with you about because you dive deep mainly into the recruiting. How does these kind of games, a game like the Florida State game, and as you mentioned some of the previous games before, what is the domino effect like for these recruits that are watching these games? They obviously want to play, they want to get paid, but they also want to compete for national championships. And what does the lingering effect, the ripple effect of these kind of games really bring out for recruits overall, and then maybe anybody in particular that you've heard or know of?
Yeah, I think for right now, it's funny. I kind of have some of these conversations. Some of these recruits, and some may not believe me when I say this, are a little bit more level-headed than fans out there, especially in the SEC. You talk to some of them, and particularly some of the 5-stars, and you talk to Xavier Crowell after the weekend at Jackson. He made it known he's going home this week in Alabama. So a lot of them, again, are still locked in, or are not too worried about it. But it's a fair question to be asked, because if the losses start to pile up, again, I don't think Kalen DeBoer is going to go, but who does go? The offensive coordinator, the position coach, the defensive coordinator, all those guys. And that's kind of where a lot of these recruits are committing to. They're committing to their position coach that they've developed relationships with. So it's definitely something to monitor. Right now, I wouldn't put any red alerts up or any red flags right now, just based on the conversations I've continued to have. Alabama's going to have an opportunity to, I know I kind of just said it, they can do anything this weekend and people won't be happy, but I think recruits will. They're going to have majority of their number 5 class on campus. That's always good, especially for out-of-state kids to want to come for a game that's maybe not as exciting as a Tennessee, or as an LSU, as an Oklahoma that's going to be at home this weekend, this fall as well. But again, no real red flags, and it's always good to have your commits on campus, and certainly after the showing this past weekend.
Brett, I mean, you go back to last season, and it feels like Bama is just not on the right side of the momentum train. Obviously, with the bowl loss to Michigan, the stunner in, I believe it was Norman. That game was at Norman, I think. Kind of, where does it go from here? If you were to pinpoint one thing that Alabama needs to do well against La Monroe to sort of build that momentum again, what would you say?
It kind of sounds like a cop-out, but it's effort, and it's what these Alabama fans, and I think what your viewers want to see as well. I saw a million clips of, we don't need to name names, but specific individuals kind of on that defense maybe loafing, and that was kind of a big talking point on Sunday and Monday from a lot of national writers. Was you turn on this Alabama tape and it didn't look like Alabama, and I kind of went into this game going, this game, I thought Alabama was going to win this. I'm going to make that clear. I'm very shocked, still am shocked. But if Alabama was going to lose, I thought maybe it was a field goal or something, or kind of a fluke or something like that. But like I said, it was the way that they lost. It was just mind-boggling. So we'll see. I think it's effort, and I think it's line of scrimmage. Just winning on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely. I want to jump into some of the bigger stories around the SEC in just a moment, but first I want to ask specifically about Ty Simpson. What did you make of his debut, his start? Obviously, the numbers make it look like a bit of a better game, but what do you think of just where he projects as they move forward this year, and the things that they'll be asking him to do as the leader of the offense?
Yeah, I think in hindsight, it looked like a quarterback making his first start on the road in a tough environment. And I know he has some playing time in some last couple seasons across, at Alabama, but this was his first real start. I think you saw some things that other quarterbacks would have also shown. I think he made some good decisions, but I also think he made some not so good decisions, and maybe taking the ball and running it on a third and 6. He show off his legs, and it kind of seemed like there was a little bit of hesitancy. There's couple times where I think he could maybe, show off his arm talent that the staff has raved about, that the receiving core has raved about all offseason. And Kalen DeBoer talked about that. I believe Ryan Grubb talked about that as well. I was a little bit hesitant, but I think Alabama fans were saying, hey, put Keelan in. Hey, put Austin Mack in. I didn't think that was ever a possibility. I don't think the staff was thinking about that. I don't think you put in a true freshman 5-star down 14 in the pouring rain on the road. I just don't think you do it.
Yeah, we talked about quarterbacks in and around the SEC earlier in this show. As a connoisseur of football overall, you obviously tackle it from a recruiting standpoint. You know Alabama really well, but you also watch this league overall. I know you specifically like one team there that plays in the swamp. What was your just takeaway overall for the SEC as a whole, and some of the quarterback play, the offenses, and just what stood out to you overall throughout the SEC in Week 1?
Yeah, I think the quarterback play is probably the big talker. And going into the season, there's so many, unknowns and kind of not as many set returners coming back. And you circle that big noon kickoff, and I'm sure you guys went in on Arch Manning appropriately. Again, it was a first start on the road in a hostile environment against a very, very good defense. And I'll be honest, I thought he was going to look better. But he's gonna be fine. I think he's gonna return home, get more comfortable, and then looking down again with the quarterbacks, Norris Sellers goes down that first drive against Virginia Tech. Looks like Cam Newton times Tim Tebow times Lamar Jackson. It looks like he's probably gonna be in New York, and people are gonna be talking about him being the number 1 overall pick. And then now you go to Baton Rouge and Garrett Nussmeier with all the expectations of LSU and Brian Kelly, and can they win that opener? And they do that in Clemson, and now Dabo and Brian Kelly are going at it on social media. I'm sure that can be a good, fun talker for you guys if you need it to fill out the show. But overall, I think it was a pretty good week for the SEC, and I think it also shows how brutal this league is and is going to continue to be. I mean, Alabama, I can tell you right now, on paper and from my perspective, which who knows if that means anything these days, but there's a lot more talented teams Alabama's going to face than Florida State, and they're all in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, Simone earlier on the show said that she doesn't believe the SEC is going to win the national title, but she does believe that they will play for the national title. What are your thoughts on that?
She's got Bowling Green beating I'm gonna get a call later about that one.
You should have saw her in here, Brett, the other day. She had these big glasses on. She had her big BG shirt on and the rings.
I made
it was all out for the Falcons.
I made it a point to not like or comment anything that I saw with that one. So I'm probably not in good standing anyway. But I'm an Atlanta kid. I was born and raised in Atlanta. I've been in the South the whole time. You're not going to find me picking against the SEC. I don't know if I can give you an answer quite yet. Maybe if I'm on in a week or two or a little closer. But I'm going to take the SEC if you had to give me SEC or the field here.
What an SEC answer.
I know. Okay, all right. So you were born in Atlanta, or you were born in close to Atlanta. Obviously, you follow though not only Georgia, but you also follow the Florida Gators. I know that's your squad. I know both teams played inferior opponents, but what did you make of DJ Lagway, Gunnar Stockton, and some of these guys that are taking that next step as year 2 quarterbacks in this league, and how they project moving forward? I believe they play each other pretty soon. Or Georgia plays Tennessee.
Yeah. I'll start with Georgia. I think they looked good. I think they took care of business, and it was kind of funny. I was talking with some buddies. Kirby's built this monster there, has won 2 national championships and 2 years removed that, and can kind of pull this underdog factor all year. Nobody's really talking about them, which should not bode well for opponents. I don't think you need any extra motivation coming out of that Georgia program, any extra motivation coming out of Kirby Smart. So I think Georgia's going to be a very good team. People are like, oh, they're going to go 10-2. Well, that's going to get you in the playoffs. So that's a very good team. And then moving down south to Florida, yeah, both my parents went there, so kind of grew up Florida fan. They, with all due respect, I did not know teams like Long Island kind of still existed.
Whoa.
I said the same thing.
I mean, there's a difference between a Long Island and UL Monroe. Like UL Monroe's got like I just didn't expect that to be a close game. It wasn't a close game. I don't really think I can give a fair judgment on that game. I think DJ Lagway said his throwing could be better, but he was like 15-18 with 3 touchdowns. So there's a lot of excitement in Gainesville, but I mean, they're playing a USF team who just beat the brakes off of Boise State next week. They've got Texas, they got at A&M, they got at LSU, at Miami. I mean, they've got a gauntlet. So should be exciting. And it's the SEC, man.
I think the line on that USF game is like 14 or 15 for Florida.
Wow.
I feel, I don't know.
It's kind of high.
I think it opened at like 19 or 21 or something like that.
And they got bet down, but still, it's over 2 touchdowns. That's insane.
You can't rule out anything.
Yeah.
You really can't.
And the main reason last week I really liked South Florida is because I don't like I have a rule, Brett, that any team west of the Mississippi and north of Oklahoma, if you're west of the Mississippi and north of Oklahoma and you come to the state of Florida in August or September, I don't care what the number is, I'm betting the home team. I'll blind bet the home team. I don't care what it is. There's no teams that are willing to deal with that.
Yeah, he's not the same.
Good stuff. Brett Greenberg, thank you so much for joining us, man. You have been awesome as always, and thank you for your insight, and I'm sure we'll see you again down the road.
Absolutely, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, man. You too. Brett Greenberg, 24/7 Sports, does great work over there. Great insight on Alabama, and it seems to me like Alabama will be fine from a recruiting standpoint. It seems like these kind of games can take a bit of a ding, but with the tradition and the pride, and of course you always have Nick Saban, who has an office like right down the road, right down the corner there. I think that they'll be able to be fine there in the recruiting game.
Yeah, I think they just need to build off of this week coming up. They just need to start with what he said was the effort. The effort definitely needs to get better, and that's something you can control.
Right.
You can control the effort. You can't always control how the game goes, but if you start there, then the wins will start to stack up. You just got to take it one by one.
Yep. Overreaction Tuesday right here. We have the AP poll coming up. We'll talk some Arkansas coming up as well. Keep it here on Southeast Sports Plus. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. 5 straight days of college football from Thursday all the way till Monday. As week 1 now officially in the books. We've had a great show. Cole Kublik was on out of the SEC Network. We just had Brett Greenberg from 247 Sports covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. Ian Kress joins us from Michigan to preview that big Oklahoma game. We'll also have Courtney Mims in from Arkansas breaking down the Razorbacks. And I think is she in?
Yeah, she'll be in here in just a second.
Perfect.
Arkansas, taking out Arkansas State for the first time.
That's right.
I remember we went back to, I think we were talking about this SEC Media Days.
That's right. Yep, we were talking about SEC Media Days.
Whoa, I didn't expect them to, this to be the first time that they played each other. I would have thought that
they have played before at some point. Yeah, but it's a really interesting matchup, and Courtney broke it down really well. We'll get her insights once again because they're doing it in a really interesting way. We've seen other teams play other squads. Like this past weekend, you had Michigan State that played Western Michigan. You have Michigan that will play Central Michigan here coming up. Mm-hmm. Auburn will play South Alabama this year. So some nice little in-state rivalries there. And obviously, it's good for both teams. I think, in my opinion, it's good for both. Obviously, if you are the quote-unquote the big brother of the two, you worry a little bit about getting beat and getting upset there. But I think it does a lot of good for both schools, both institutions, and fans really on both sides, because I'm sure that they share a lot of the same fans that do root for the Red Wolves and then also root for the Razorbacks there as well. So it's a really interesting game there. And our friend Courtney Mims, she's actually she was in Fayetteville, but now she's over there in Little Rock. We have to get the new lay of the land there in Arkansas.
Let's bring her in here.
Courtney.
Hi guys, how are you?
How goes it,
so
my
good
friend?
to see you. It's great. It's great. We're, like you said, Gerhard, I kind of moved locations.
Yeah.
So now I am in Little Rock, and I moved from Fayetteville to Little Rock. So here we are, but still covering the Hogs and covering everything else as well. Also Arkansas State. So hey, a little bit of everything, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so what is that, about a 3-hour drive? What's the distance between those two cities?
It's about 2.5, I would say. 2.5. Okay. I can make it in 2 if I drive really crazy, but don't tell anyone I do that. So
we'll keep that a secret.
Yeah, Courtney with the lead foot, that actually doesn't surprise me at all. You strike me as a fast driver. You do. In a good way, a very safe driver, but a fast driver.
Very fast. I pretend sometimes that I'm in an F1 race.
That's
really.
what I'm saying. Okay, all right. So you know what? I'm just gonna let you know. I think that there's a parallel universe out there where Courtney is racing like F1 or IndyCar. Yeah. Like I just see it. I just see it. You just have the aura of a driver. As a fast driver.
I appreciate that. My video game self would say yes, I could do that, but it's only really in Mario Kart, so I don't know. I think that's the alternate universe. Courtney has that talent. This one just has Mario Kart talent, so
that's all that matters.
Let's get to the football here. Taylor Green had a really nice game on Saturday against Alabama A&M. As you can see the stats here, 322 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns. I know you talked a lot about him being a big factor for this team heading into 2025. What do you make of his start to this year?
Yeah, it was a really good start. I thought it was exactly what you needed to see from Taylor Green right off the bat. Some of the criticisms that he had last year was that touchdown to interception ratio. You just throw up his stats right there. No interceptions in that game. I get it's against Alabama A&M, guys. I get it. I understand. But at least you didn't have any turnovers. And that was something last year that you couldn't guarantee no matter who you played with this team. And so Taylor, to go out there, make good decisions, make good reads, and have a game like that, that's exactly what you needed to see from him. I know the coaching staff was very pleased with his performance. I will say, guys, I'm going to put this out there. I don't like that Taylor Green was still kind of putting his body on the line where there were some plays where I would go, Taylor, just run out of bounds. just run out of bounds, okay? He got hurt last year, guys. I said this on the show. I said, look, if Talon wasn't hurt for the last 6 games, this could have been a different Arkansas team, but he was playing hurt. He was playing in those last 6 games hurt. So why are you trying to get hurt against Alabama A&M? Just run out of bounds, man. And now I know Sam Pittman, he was asked about that. He said, look, that's exactly what we want him to do. We want him to run. We want him to use his legs. I just ask that maybe it's okay to run out of bounds against Alabama A&M. You're not playing, the real Alabama. Okay, guys, come on. That's all I asked for. So, but it was a great performance from him. Something else I'd like to see is Talon wasn't protected as well as he should have been in that game. The sacks that he took, I kind of went, whoa. What are we seeing? Is this the same offensive line? Well, it was just some missed assignments, guys. And honestly, it wasn't even on the offensive line at times. It was on one of the running backs in Mike Washington, one of the transfers from New Mexico State. He had missed an assignment, really bad miscommunication, and Alabama A&M got to Talon. And so you want to see less of that moving forward, especially against Arkansas State. I really want to make sure that the O-line can protect Talon. Talon's not doing anything to hurt himself, and there's no more missed assignments, especially.
It's point well noted there, and we got a chance to hear from head coach Sam Pittman after that big win over A&M.
We want him to be smart. We're trying not to get him to run over people, but we also are on a program where we're really encouraging running out of bounds either. I have 3 clips to show today, 3 of effort. And one of them is 3rd and 11 where he turned up the sideline and stretched out and made the first down. That's how I want him to play, whatever that is, and it inspires the team. I still go back to the Auburn game last year when he hurdled the guy. It inspires the football team. And, of course, another clip was one of Ashton No. That was incredible, man. I mean, it really was incredible. And then on defense, we had when we got into our 3rd down package and we had the sack on there. But, we want him to stay healthy because he gives us a chance every week. And but, I've always said guys that are playing not to get hurt are also playing not to get drafted. And it's the truth. I mean, that's just, I don't want to get hurt. Well, you don't want to get drafted either, because if that's the main thing on your mind, you're not. You got to go play the football game, and you got to be on video making plays that other people don't, or they're not going to draft you.
Interesting, Courtney, because I feel like Coach Pittman is threading a needle in a certain way where he wants his guys to be aggressive, but he also wants them to be mindful. And Talon Green is probably the perfect example of that, because he wants him to stay protected, but he understands that in one play, he can make a flash play where he jumps over a guy. He mentions the Auburn game. In one play, just like you mentioned, he runs over a guy for Alabama A&M, and which in some ways that can invigorate your team, but in other ways that could also put yourself in harm's way. How do you feel like he will help thread that needle all season long with these guys? Because he does want an aggressive football team, and I'm sure an aggressive quarterback as well.
Yeah, I would just say it goes back to what I'm saying. It's like, I get it, Sam. You want these guys to be aggressive. And that is something that's been lacking, honestly, with this Arkansas team in years past. They haven't had the physicality. They were getting out physicaled by all of these different teams. And so you kind of, as a football coach or even as a football fan, you kind of get annoyed going, man, you have guys out there. You have big dudes. And this team, by far, is one of the biggest that we've seen in recent years. And so you have these guys that when they get off the bus, they look the part, right? Yep. They look the part of an SEC team. Mm-hmm. Now you want them to match that with that physicality and aggressiveness on the field. But at the same time, there is a balance. My whole argument to Sam is, Sam, I get it. You want these guys to play as tough and hard as possible, but they don't need to do it when they're winning by 30 against an Alabama A&M team, okay? I don't need Talon hurt game 1 of the season. You got to put in KJ Jackson by game 2, and you're going, man, I guess we wanted to see what Talon could do this season, but we've only got 1 game out of him. So there is a balance. And my whole argument is, sure, if it's against Tennessee, if it's against Ole Miss, if it's against Texas, if it's against LSU, right? I think fans are going to understand that, okay, it's the emotions and everything. It is Alabama A&M. It is the first game of the season. You can protect yourself. You can make sure that you come out of the game with no injuries. And listen, I'll say this to you guys. Arkansas State, you guys know what this means for this state, that this is happening for the first time ever. And this has been a wanted matchup here in the state of Arkansas. And so there's going to be a whole lot of emotions on the field this coming Saturday. I get that on Arkansas State and Arkansas, there's not a lot of true Arkansans on both rosters, but they still know what it means. They still understand that this game is important. And so I'm just saying I definitely want them to play aggressive, but also be careful this week. I wouldn't be shocked if people get hurt just because of how many emotions are around this game.
Gosh, yeah, you teed that game up perfectly because you mentioned it. The fact that there's not a lot of natives of Arkansas that will be in uniform, but they obviously hear from the alumni, from the students on campus, from just people around about how important this football game is for those that aren't in the state of Arkansas or don't know these two programs, and just how proud they are. How important is this game for these two teams to be on the same field at the same time, and exactly where it is as well, because it's not your traditional kind of situation, a setting here like we saw last week with Michigan State and Western Michigan. It's a different set of circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, the game's played at War Memorial Stadium, Gerhard. And if you've never been to War Memorial Stadium, I'll say this. It is a classic old football stadium. It's not got your fancy things going on, and it's just classic, right? When you step into it, you feel like you've stepped in a time warp, right? You've just gone, whoa, I'm back to the games of the 80s. And that's just they kept the history of that stadium really well while making some updates to it as well. The whole thing about in Arkansas is that they want it to be more updated, to play more games there, but they don't want to take away that historic aspect of it. So it's played at War Memorial. And then Mike Leach, may he rest in peace, had a great quote about War Memorial Stadium. He got done coaching there, and he said, man, this is the loudest stadium I have ever coached in. This is a crazy environment. And honestly, I get it. I understand why he says that, because the way it's designed and the way they did it, it was designed to basically you're sitting on top of the players. There's not a wall that kind of goes up, it's kind of, you're just on top of the players. If you're on those first couple of rows, you're basically a part of the bench. Right. And so you hear all that fan sound. You're just hearing those people right next to you. And then it kind of bowls up. So there's even more sound, obviously, from as far you go up and, in the stadium. So it's a very cool environment. If you've never been to War Memorial, I highly recommend. Come by Arkansas, go to a game there is very cool. But one, the stadium. Two, the fact that these two teams have never played before, and that this matchup has been asked for and asked for and asked for and asked for years and years and years and years and years. And it's really the Arkansas State people and the Red Wolves camp that have kind of said, look, we get that you don't want to play in-state opponents. We get it. We understand. Arkansas has everything to lose. Those in-state smaller teams have everything to gain if they beat Arkansas, right? And so Sam said it this week perfectly. We don't have a lot to gain from playing this game. Honestly, this game doesn't really help us at all, because if we lose it, it's going to be bedlam here in Arkansas. It's going to be crazy. If they win it, but they win it by close, by a touchdown, by 2 touchdowns, still bedlam in Arkansas, because then Arkansas State's going to feel like they can go around for the next year and go, look at us. We handed it to Arkansas. We covered. We did well, and that's covered. And that's exactly. And that's something that they're going to be proud of at the end of the day. So I know that a lot of people are excited for this matchup, but there's also a lot of people who are very not excited for this matchup, because they know what it means to Arkansas State. And Arkansas State's head coach, for many people who don't know this, they forget, it's a jump scare for them when they see him pop up, but it's Butch Jones. So It's just like every time you have to like remember that. You're like, oh yeah, Butch Jones is over there coaching Arkansas State. And so you have a good coach at your helm. You also have a really talented quarterback for Arkansas State too. And so they feel confident that they will go in there and give Arkansas a ball game. Will that happen? I don't think so. I'm going to say that very lightly because I know the emotions are running high. You never know what can happen when emotions are high in a football game, but it's going to be a really, really interesting matchup, and one that I know many people outside the state of Arkansas will not care about. But let me tell you, if you have a chance to put on that game, I would.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll be interesting.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Butch Jones and their quarterback in Jalen Raynor. We got a chance to see him last year when Arkansas State came down to Mobile to play in the 68 Ventures Bowl. This is a program that has had a lot of confidence over the last couple of years. For those that haven't kept up with the Red Wolves and a former SEC coach in Butch Jones, what are some of the things that they bring to the table and some of the ways that this game can help them as they move forward, win or loss?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. I'm really high on Jalen Raynor, and I know Arkansas is as well. They have been preparing for him because he does so many things well, and he has such a great football IQ. You guys watched him last year. You know, in that first game against SEMO, he looked poised, ready to go, confident, and like it kind of scared some people a little bit, I think. And I know you can't just win with a quarterback, right? You have to have a team around him, but they have some pieces there. They have some speed. That's one thing Sam said. We have got to be careful with their speed because they have got some guys who can just run. And so that is an interesting thing for him to mention, especially with the way that the defense played against Alabama A&M on Saturday. They got it going through the game. But Alabama A&M was able to score in that first drive and very quickly on Arkansas too. It made some people go, oh, whoa, whoa, this defense is a little sus. And I think I told you guys that on this show when I came on a few weeks ago. You guys asked me what Arkansas had a lot of question marks, and I said defensively they do. And so I'm kind of curious to see how the secondary will do against some of their speedy receivers that Arkansas State has. So they have a lot of talent on that team. Is it enough talent to go up against a team like Arkansas, who really right now, guys, I get it. It was Alabama A&M. I get the defense struggled on that first drive, but they do look the part. They do have the size. They do have that physicality. They're gonna be ready for this game. And so does Arkansas State just have enough to go up against that? That's where I question it. They have some talented pieces all over their roster. It's just I don't think they have enough to win this ball game with Arkansas.
I gotcha. And it's excellent breakdown, an absolute excellent breakdown. From Fayetteville to Little Rock, the 2 hours that it takes to drive those two in Courtney's car. Thank you so much for joining us. That was an excellent breakdown. If it wasn't a game that you were thinking about putting on, I think you sold that game beautifully. Beautifully there.
Yay!
War Memorial Stadium. War Memorial Stadium there in Little Rock. Courtney Mims, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thank you, guys. Hope to be on soon, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will have you back on for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Arkansas State, War Memorial Stadium there in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she does a great job. And if you Google pictures of War Memorial Stadium, it does look like one of those old school style, almost Coliseum style, where all the noise literally just gets trapped on top of you. So I won't be a bit surprised if you don't see some chaos there in the early stages of that game where talent won't necessarily be a factor early on because the emotions will be running high in there in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, stadiums, it's all about putting all these electronics, these big video boards.
That's such a good point.
Sometimes you just got to go back to traditional football, just try to stack a bunch of people in, like as many people in as you can, and just have just nothing but chaos.
Yeah, it should be an interesting environment for those interested in the gambling line. Arkansas is a 23.5-point favorite there. So we'll see if Arkansas State can cover and be happy there. 23.5 points, 63.5 is the over-under there and there. So maybe a little bit of scoring there. Both teams put up a lot of points on the board last week there in that matchup. Thank you so much to Courtney Mims for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. Coming up next here, we will dive into the new AP poll. Who's up? Who's down? We'll find out next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh joining you as we close up day number 2. It still feels like day 1, mainly because it feels like a Monday, even though it's a Tuesday. But typically, Patrick, the AP poll will come out on a Monday, but because the last college football game of the week ended on a Monday, we had our first poll out on Tuesday here, and here is a look at the new top 5. Some changes here as Ohio State, unsurprisingly, vaults up to the number 1 spot in the country. 55 first-place votes, I think is what I saw on the overall rankings. Yeah, 55 first-place votes for the Buckeyes. Penn State remains at number 2. There were some people thinking that Penn State might make the jump up to 1, but it's Ohio State 1, Penn State 2. So the 2 teams out of the Big Ten. The top-ranked team out of the SEC is the LSU Tigers after going to the other Death Valley and getting that win. Georgia is at number 4, and the Miami Hurricanes there at number 5. Patrick, your overall thoughts of just the way that this whole thing broke down and the new look here of the top 5?
You know, Ohio State jumping up to 1, I felt like that was to be expected.
Right.
I did not expect to see Texas outside of the top 5. That was a team that I thought would just switch places with Ohio State, go 1 to 3. Georgia at 4, Miami at 5. But as we roll on here, Oregon at 6, I like that. And then, as I mentioned, Texas. I just feel like you punished a team that stuck around with the number 1 team in the country.
Right.
And they only lost by a touchdown. And, you know, I don't want to say it was ever in doubt because it felt like the Ohio State defense really took over that game.
Right.
Both defenses did, for that matter. But I just feel like punishing a team, sending them down to 7, which, I mean, anyone around that program will probably say, all right, fine, get all the pressure off us.
Right.
Roger said yesterday they're going to play some glorified scrimmages the next few weeks.
I mean, for the next 3 games, I think it's a UTEP and San Jose State this upcoming week, and a couple others that just won't. They'll fly under the radar for the next little bit. But I agree. I could not put Texas ahead of LSU after what they did at Clemson. I could not put them ahead of Georgia. Just because Georgia came in and took care of business. I could put them ahead of Miami. I think that's where the tie is. And if not Miami, if you want to put them ahead of Oregon, that's fine as well. So it's kind of hard to find where you would slot them just because everybody else had such either an impressive win over an inferior opponent. But I'm with you. I think 7 is a little too low. But they might be punishing because they only scored 7 points, in that season opener there in the shoe against Ohio State. But, yeah, as you mentioned, that top 10, I'll tell you what, one of the teams in the top 10, I don't know if you can bring that back up 6 through 10, but the South Carolina Gamecocks,
they're here.
A top 10 football program. Wow. This is a team that I think a lot of people might have thought, okay, the defensive player of the year last year, he is now gone, and you have your quarterback back, but this is lofty. I think even for people who are South Carolina fans, they're a top 10 team.
I feel like early in the season, you do get those surprise AP top 25 teams. We'll get into it here in a second. Actually, let's jump into 11 through 15. Yeah. And one of those surprise teams is Florida State. Now, okay, that was a big, big win Saturday.
Huge.
And not a lot of people predicted it. And, of course, the great Lee Corso picked it. But I don't know. I don't think they're, in my honest opinion, I don't think they're a top 15 football team, actually.
Right.
Like, just based off the eye test, Castellanos had a great game.
Yeah.
The rushing attack just destroyed Alabama's defense.
Right.
Brett Greenberg was on earlier to talk about effort and stuff. From an eye test, they're a top 25 team. They're not a top 15 team. They're going to be at the top of the ACC.
Right.
I just don't see them getting over that just yet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I think that the results on the field, it merits being ranked, obviously. But when you put up some of the other teams that are around that neighborhood, so they're 14, and as you said, if you put them on a field just blindly against the teams that are behind them, do you still like them as much as some of the others? So take a look at 16 through 20. I love Iowa State. Going into this year, I love
Cyclones.
Me too. I love Oklahoma this year.
Yes.
I think I like Oklahoma more than I like Florida State.
Matier's going to win the Heisman.
The overreaction. I like Texas A&M more than I like Florida State. So I'm right there with you. I think that being ranked is one thing, maybe a little overvalued, but we'll see if Coach Norvell and company can handle it. But what your take here on some of the teams, especially the teams in the SEC there that round out the top 20?
Oklahoma, I feel like they're steadily going to progress up. I actually see them beating Michigan this weekend. You got to take in Bryce Underwood's experience. Experience was a big thing that we talked about last week with Arch Manning versus Julian Sayin. Neither quarterbacks really played great, but I see Oklahoma starting to progress up. A&M, man, if they go another 8-4 season, their fans are just going to be like, here we go again, 8-4. But to round out the top 25, Alabama drops all the way to 21, the largest drop-off of any team on this list. I mean,
17 spots.
Yes.
17 spots from where they were to where they are now. In the same way we talked about the overreactions, I think this might also be a bit of an overreaction, but I understand it. If I had a vote, I don't know if I could put Alabama there in the top 20 or top 15 there, but there you saw the other teams that are involved there. Tennessee, I like that win over Syracuse a little bit more. I would have probably ranked them a little. I think would have ranked them higher than Alabama at least.
I talked about it. Joey Aguilar played a lot better than I think anybody could have ever
100%.
expected him to play for a new quarterback in a new offense. But that's the AP poll for week 2.
That's right.
There's always something to talk about when they come out.
And especially until we get the committee's poll, we just have to do this. Indiana, Texas Tech, and Utah rounding out the top 25. Stay with us right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will close up shop on this Tuesday. Closing up shop here on Southeast Sports Plus on a Tuesday. Week 1 of the college football season is now in the books officially after TCU and North Carolina closed it out last night, and looking ahead to week 2 of the college football season. But Patrick Walsh, the greatest coach of all time, had some very interesting comments, and not just what he said, but what he didn't say. Give the people a look.
Yeah, so here's what he said Monday night. I'm sure they're all disappointed, talking about Alabama.
Right.
But they do have a great chance to improve from week 1 to week 2. That's when you normally make the biggest improvement. LSU, Miami, and Ohio State all really impressed me. But I think Texas, Notre Dame, and Clemson all have a really good chance to have great teams this year if they make the progress they're capable of. And if you notice who he's not talking about,
right.
It's Alabama. So, I mean, now Alabama fans have another thing to worry about when your former coach doesn't even think that you can make the strides needed to make the college football playoff.
So it's one of two things, and I think it's going to be the former rather than the latter. I think that obviously, he's talking on a game broadcast and he's getting his thoughts out, and I think it was an accidental.
I think so too.
Accidental, just did not think about them.
It just slipped his mind.
He was thinking of the 3 biggest games in college football, and he was doing the 3 biggest winners and the 3 biggest losers.
Yeah.
However, you would think, even if it's just subconscious, that he would actually name Alabama as one of the teams that can make that next step forward. I'm not making too much about this, but I think you're right. I think Alabama fans are looking at this like, whoa, Coach didn't mention us. He didn't mention us at all.
I mean, it's just not another thing you want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you already are in the dumps because you lost week 1. You lost away from home. You're a 2-touchdown favorite. And then your former coach, who's easily the greatest coach of all time, just doesn't even think that you can bring it around. But we'll see. We'll see if they can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. So much to dive into as we look ahead to week 2 of the college football season this week. We'll see you tomorrow.